What device is with you at all times? It tracks your every move. It constantly listens to every word you say. And it sees you right through its microlens. Yeah, you guessed it. We are talking about the modern smartphone. But did you know that this gadget might never have seen the light of day? At least, not in the form we know, if it weren't for top-secret military technologies and a chain of accidental and sometimes terrifying events. In this video, we will trace the chain of great discoveries and random accidents that directly created the tech sitting in your pocket right now. Let's start with the basics. Right now, your smartphone is connected to the web. You probably take it for granted, but without the internet, this piece of glass turns into a useless, expensive brick. In school, you were probably told a sweet fairy tale that the internet was invented by scientists just to share books and formulas. Total nonsense. The internet is a child of fear, a primal fear of a nuclear winter. Let's go back to the 1960s. The Cold War is at its peak. There is panic inside the Pentagon. The generals realize a fatal flaw. The entire U.S. communication system is built like a tree. All wires lead to a single center. If the Soviet Union dropped just one atomic bomb on a central hub, the entire U.S. military would go blind and deaf in a second. The president wouldn't even be able to order a counterstrike. It would be the end. They needed a network that was impossible to kill, a headless system, a web. If you blow up one part, the rest keeps working. The project was called ARPANET. It was the military grandfather of your internet. October 29, 1969, the first attempt to transmit data. Distance 600 kilometers from Los Angeles to Stanford. Programmer Charlie Klein attempts to send the word login. He types the letter L, success. He types O, success. He types G, and the system crashed. The very first server in history couldn't even handle 3 letters. But it was a start. A military network designed to survive a nuclear war became the World Wide Web. And now, thanks to the paranoia of those generals, you are able to watch this video. Okay, so we have the internet, but how does it get into this phone without any wires? Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. For this technology, say thank you to Hedy Lamarr. By day, a Hollywood superstar, but at night, she wasn't learning lines. She was drafting secret weapons. It was World War II. Nazi U-boats were slaughtering Allied ships. It was a massacre. The U.S. Navy had radio-controlled torpedoes, but they had a fatal flaw. The Nazis could simply jam the signal with noise, and the torpedo would go blind. Hedy found a brilliant solution, inspired by a player piano. She realized the signal shouldn't stay on just one frequency. It should hop around like notes on a keyboard. Frequency hopping. The enemy just couldn't catch the signal. Back then, the generals laughed at her, but today, this exact principle is inside your Bluetooth headphones. Moving on, your phone always knows exactly where you are. GPS. This technology also started with panic. 1957, the Soviet Union launches the first Sputnik. America is terrified. The Russians are overhead. U.S. physicists sat in a lab listening to that eerie signal, beep, beep, and they noticed something strange. When the satellite got closer, the signal pitch went up. When it flew away, it went down. The Doppler effect, just like an ambulance siren. And then it hit them. If we know where we are, we can track the satellite, but it works the other way around. Knowing where the satellite is allows us to calculate exactly where we are on Earth. That is how navigation was born. Originally to guide nuclear missiles from submarines, and now you use it to find a pizza place. Now look at your smartphone camera. You take thousands of photos without thinking. But 50 years ago, photography was a matter of life and death. In the 60s, American spy satellites took photos of the USSR on regular film. But how do you get film from orbit to Earth? There was no Wi-Fi. They simply dropped it down. Picture this, a golden capsule with top-secret photos falling from space on a parachute, and down below, a plane with a massive hook tries to catch it mid-air. It sounded like a circus. Pilots often missed, and secret data would sink in the ocean or fall into enemy hands. The CIA got tired of this. They needed a way to transmit images instantly via radio. In 1976, they launched the KH-11 satellite with the world's first digital eye, a CCD sensor. The very same technology that hunted for Soviet missiles now allows you to post your food on Instagram. Now, the screen. How do we control all of this? Just a touch of a finger. You probably think the touchscreen was invented by Steve Jobs in 2007? Nope, it was nuclear physicists 30 years before the iPhone. 1973, CERN. Scientists are building a new particle accelerator. They had a gigantic problem. The control panel required 9,000 buttons and switches. Engineers simply wouldn't be able to keep track of them. Then a Danish engineer, Bent Stumpe, proposed a crazy idea. Let's get rid of the buttons. Let's draw them on glass and just touch them. Colleagues thought he was crazy. Glass will break. It's unsafe. But Stumpe soldered copper wires inside the screen, and it worked. The world's first transparent touchscreen wasn't made for likes. It was made so the collider wouldn't blow up. Now, the brain of your phone, the processor. It holds billions of transistors. But in the 1950s, computers were the size of this room and weighed as much as an elephant. How did we go from giant cabinets to tiny chips? War again. The U.S. Air Force built a new intercontinental ballistic missile, the Minuteman II. It needed an onboard computer for guidance, but you can't shove a 5-ton machine into the nose of a rocket. They needed something incredibly small and light. The military bet everything on a new, unproven technology, the integrated circuit, Microchip. They bought 100% of all chips in the world, driving the price down and making them accessible. Your phone's processor is a direct descendant of a computer created to deliver a nuclear warhead to the other side of the world. Look at your screen. It's Gorilla Glass. We're used to it being tough. But glass is supposed to break, right? The story of this material began with a mistake that almost burned down a lab. 1952. Chemist Donald Stuckey at Corning was running an experiment. He placed a piece of photosensitive glass into a furnace and set it to 600 degrees. But the thermostat broke. The temperature soared to 900 degrees. When Stuckey returned, he expected to find a melted puddle. Instead, he found a milky white slab. He grabbed it with tongs, but it slipped and fell onto the concrete floor. It should have shattered into 1,000,000 pieces, but it bounced like a steel ball. Stuckey had accidentally invented glass ceramic, a material stronger than metal. The funniest part? Nobody needed this invention for 50 years. It gathered dust on a shelf under the name Chemcore, until 2007, when Steve Jobs called Corning and said, "I need glass for the iPhone, not plastic. You have 1 month." We've reached the Holy Grail, the foundation of everything, the transistor. There are billions of them in your phone's processor. But do you know why they were invented? Because of the fear of the dark. 1940s, World War II. British radars were the only defense London had against Nazi night raids. but these radars ran on vacuum tubes. Tubes were made of glass, fragile, and burned out constantly, just like old light bulbs. If a tube burned out during a raid, the radar went blind, and thousands of people could die. Engineers needed a replacement, something solid, eternal, that wouldn't burn out. In 1947, Bell Labs created it, the first transistor. It looked like a paperclip pressed against a piece of rock, germanium, ugly but immortal. Without this paperclip, we wouldn't have the internet, smartphones, or Elon Musk. Look at your laptop or phone. You think computers were created for work or gaming? No. The world's first computer was a weapon. 1943, Battle of the Atlantic. Britain is starving. Nazi U-boats are sinking supply ships like ducks in a shooting gallery. They know the convoy routes because they speak in codes. The Nazi Enigma machine changed its encryption keys every 24 hours. It took humans weeks to crack a code that only lived for one day. It was hopeless. Mathematician Alan Turing and engineer Tommy Flowers realized humans are too slow. To defeat a machine, you need another machine. They built Colossus, the world's first electronic programmable computer. It filled a whole room, was hot as an oven, but it read Hitler's orders faster than the Nazi generals themselves. Your smartphone is the great-grandson of a machine that saved 14 million lives. We have the hardware, but for the phone to work, it needs code, software, the language of zeros and ones. Where did it come from? You'll be surprised. From fashion. 1804, France. Joseph Marie Jacquard invents a loom to weave beautiful patterns on silk. But the patterns are complex. Humans make mistakes. Jacquard came up with a way to control the loom using cardboard, cards with holes, punch cards. Hole present, thread goes up. That's a 1. No hole, thread stays down. That's a 0. This was the first binary code in history. The first digital program wasn't written for a chatbot, but to weave underwear. But people didn't like it. Workers realized robots will take our jobs. The Luddite movement began. They stormed factories with sledgehammers, smashed machines, and burned inventors' houses. It was the first war of man against machine, and we lost it. Now, the microphone. How does the phone hear you? It turns sound into electricity. In 1876, Alexander Graham Bell was obsessed with this idea. To understand how it works, he did something creepy. He used a real dead human ear to study how the eardrum vibrates. But the breakthrough happened because of an accident. Bell was working with batteries and accidentally spilled acid on his pants. In pain, he shouted right into the microphone prototype, "Mr. Watson, come here, I need you." In the next room, his assistant Watson jumped. He heard the voice coming from the wire. The first phone call in history wasn't a hello. It was a scream for help. Look at your phone's case. Most likely, it's plastic, cheap and durable. But the world's first plastic was explosive. 1869, billiards is the craze. Balls were made of ivory, but elephants were being hunted so much that ivory cost as much as gold. Inventors looked for a substitute. John Hyatt created celluloid. It looked like ivory, but was made of nitrocellulose, the same stuff as gunpowder. In Wild West saloons, when one ball hit another hard, there was a loud crack, bang. Cowboys thought a shootout had started and instantly drew their revolvers. Games ended in panic. Hyatt had to change the formula. But this explosive material became the great-grandfather of the plastic in your pocket. Inside your phone are miles of microscopic wires. To prevent short circuits, you need insulation, rubber. But 200 years ago, rubber was garbage. It melted in the heat like slime and cracked in the cold like glass. No one knew how to stabilize it. Charles Goodyear was obsessed with this problem. He spent his entire fortune, went to debtor's prison, his family was starving. Everyone thought he was mad. The discovery happened by accident when he was on the brink of collapse. In 1839, waving his hands during an argument, he accidentally dropped a piece of rubber mixed with sulfur onto a hot stove. Instead of melting, it charred and became tough like leather. This was vulcanization, a mistake that gave us insulation for all the electronics in the world. But all these chips and screens are useless without energy, the battery. The lithium-ion heart of your phone. The history of the battery started like a horror movie. 18th century, Luigi Galvani noticed that a dead frog's leg twitched when touched with metal. He thought he discovered animal electricity, the life force itself. His nephew, Giovanni Aldini, went further. In 1803 in London, he connected powerful wires to the corpse of an executed criminal, George Forster. In front of a shocked crowd, the dead man opened an eye, his jaw quivered, and his hand clenched into a fist. People fainted, thinking the murderer had come back to life. But another scientist, Alessandro Volta, said, "It's not magic, it's chemistry." He stacked wet rags and zinc discs, creating the world's first battery to prove his point. By the way, that gruesome demonstration with the corpse inspired Mary Shelley to write Frankenstein. And the final piece, the camera, your phone's eye. This technology didn't start in a lab, but in a prison 1,000 years ago. 1021 AD, Cairo. The scholar Ibn al-Haytham is under house arrest in a pitch-black room. He thinks the darkness will drive him mad. Suddenly, he notices a thin beam of light piercing through a tiny pinhole in the wall. He looks at the opposite wall and can't believe his eyes. There on the wall, he sees the city street, people, carts, but they are upside down. It was the world's first camera obscura. That is how humanity understood how light and lenses work. Without this prisoner, you would have no cameras and no Instagram. Look at your phone one more time. It's not just a gadget, it is a museum. In your pocket, you carry Nazi codes, nuclear missiles, dead frogs, worker riots, and an actress's dream. History isn't a straight line, it's an explosion, and we carry its shrapnel with us. From secret bunkers and nuclear test sites straight to your pocket, these technologies traveled a path spanning centuries just to come together today, right here in the palm of your hand.